Hello again, welcome back to the Kay Burley Show. We are live in Brighton for your Labour Party conference this afternoon. Rifts within the movement over the party's Brexit position have grabbed the headlines over the last few days. With me is the chief leader writer at The Observer and also former advisor to Ed Miliband, and that of course is a regular contributor to the programme, Sonia Sodha. Also alongside Sonia is the former senior strategic advisor to Jeremy Corbyn, James Mills. Hello to you both. Thank you for joining us. Ladies first, what a conference we're having.
Absolutely, and I think all eyes are on the conference floor this afternoon to see what happens with this Brexit vote. Ideally, what the leadership wanted to happen was for them to present their ideal policy and for delegates to be given a chance to vote on it. But something's gone a bit wrong, and actually what we're seeing is another motion has made it through to the conference floor, which basically says Labour would campaign for Remain in any referendum, so it's making Labour's position much clearer, I think. It's something I'm very supportive of. And there's going to be a bit of a showdown between these two motions, and no one's quite sure what's going to happen. I think there's a chance we could see both motions pass, even though they're contradictory.
Well, are backing both, apparently.
Oh, really? Okay, well, that's interesting, isn't it? But I mean, they're kind of slightly contradictory, and I think it would be a big blow to the leadership, to Jeremy Corbyn, if this motion to make Labour essentially a Remain party passes. I think it's going to be very close. Everyone's looking at what the unions are doing. You've got some unions that are very supportive of the leadership, others a bit less so. So it's really going to come down to the vote, I think. But there is a chance that Jeremy Corbyn might have suffered a big defeat by the end of the afternoon today.
Thank you.
Look, my sort of view in it is this is actually why Jeremy Corbyn's leading the Labour Party. It's about having more democracy in the Labour Party and having these sort of debates. And I welcome it. I don't
Democratic was trying to get rid of the deputy.
But, I mean, the fact it's not going ahead says a lot, doesn't it? Because, you know, that was a position...
But I think it would have gone ahead if people had had their way.
No, to be fair, what happened is it's part of the democratic institutions. Like John Lansman represents the membership. The membership are unhappy with the deputy leader, predicated on the fact he stood on the ticket. I voted for Tom Watson, by the way, but he did stand on the ticket of union supporting the leader in 2015. There's a large number of members who don't feel that, and John Lansman represents them, and that's why he put it forward. He never would have put it forward if he didn't think there was like resonance for it to happen. But what happened, I actually think, says a lot about the character of Jeremy Corbyn. Is he's gone in there and he's placated it and quelled the matter. He's gone to the members, he's gone and turned around and said, right, you want some more reforms, I'll put for I'll come here with some sort of reforms that will make you happy about accountability regarding the deputy leadership role. We'll do a review of that. And he's gone to Tom, his deputy, who's like literally on the radio, he's almost begging for his job, and he's turned around and said to him, look, I'm going to step in and stop this, but Tom, you've got to recognise there obviously is an angst amongst the members.
I mean, I think that's a great spin from James. All credit due to... No, because I think what reportedly happened was, if not Jeremy Corbyn himself, then people who work around Jeremy Corbyn work with John Lansman to trigger this challenge to Tom Watson. And I absolutely agree with you on party democracy, James, but if you believe in party democracy, there are democratic means to try and oust Tom Watson as deputy leader of the party. What happened was a motion got put to the NEC that Tom Watson wasn't present at because he was doing childcare up in Manchester. The first that he heard of it was a text message saying that a motion was going to the NEC to try and abolish his position. Other people had no warning of it. It's not democratic not to even give the man who's got the job a chance to come and argue his case in front of the NEC. So I think it was an attempt to extend Jeremy Corbyn's power base even more that went wrong. And what you're saying from James is a spin.
I have to say, you could teach me spin after that contribution. I mean, like, because honestly what happened there was, it's part of the current democratic structure of the Labour Party. It went for the governing council at NEC, obviously got kicked back. If it had, it would have gone to the conference floor, which would be voted on by delegates who represent our local parties. The honest truth is, you say Tom Watson, it can be more democratic. For that to happen, you need a large number of MPs for that to happen. And if Tom Watson wants to renew his mandate, he can do it tomorrow. But he's not going to do that. And why is that? Because he thinks he'd lose, let's be honest. And that's the real situation here. Now, I've got no personal gripe against the man, so it's not about that, but that's the way the issue played out, if I'm honest with you.
Where are we on appropriating public schools?
Look, I mean, if you've got to look at it from the point of view of where it is in society, look, take the media, for example, and your viewers. There's a stat about, you point out, but the media is about 60% of people who work in, like, the columnists, over 60%, around over 50% of people who are columnists, over people who work at your newspapers.
Children who go to private schools. schools are 12 times more likely to end up in the top professions. And I don't think there's any way that kids who go to private schools are 12 times better on average than children who go to state schools. So that statistic is really just, I think, a symbol of how much private schools kind of replicate privilege. Where I think it was an interesting motion.
Just saying, and we're going to take all your land.
Yeah, and I think that motion went too far in terms of saying that it was going to seize the assets of private schools. Where I think it did have it right is on stuff like charging VAT on private school fees. That's something that Michael Gove, former Conservative Education Secretary, supported.
And that would be used to provide free school meals for children who need it.
I think that's a great idea. Another thing that was great in the motion was this idea that you might put a cap on the number of students from private schools who go to our top universities. And again, I think that's quite a clever device actually, because I think lots of parents who might consider private schools, if they think that only a certain number of children who go to private schools are going to get into Oxbridge, that will actually really encourage parents to think about the state system for their children.
Could have said it better myself. I mean, you made a great case. I mean, like I said, I think it's about talking about some of the iniquities and sort of the unfairness structured into our economy, also into society, and how do you challenge that? I think it's actually one of those policies that when you go to the public, they'll actually understand. It's about addressing that sort of natural justice that you get in our society.
But as I was saying, that there's a big leap from charging VAT on school fees or whatever to actually seizing the assets of private organisations, surely.
Well, I think it's one of the sort of natural progressions of the policy. If I was going to be honest with you, to get to the stage of, I think part of the reason of the debate, when we go into the minutiae of it, but the taking over.
How would it work? You'd have to.
You need that infrastructure.
I personally don't think that that's going to happen. I think it's an example of where delegates feel in a particular way. I think actually, in terms of taking the property away from private schools, there would be a lot of challenges to that. For example, potentially under human rights law. So I don't think that that's a part of the motion that we're likely to see Labour try to implement.
No, I think a lot of these things can be worked out as you change the law to get around a lot of these things. I don't know under human rights law, but that also depends where we are on Brexit. So I'm not going to bring that subject up, but there is an issue there. Look, as I say, I think you've got to look at where we're trying to go with the policy. It's about addressing a natural injustice in the system that your viewers will see every day. They turn the TV and watch people going to your studios. You don't have to be a survey, but most of the people you guess are from sort of private school backgrounds, despite the fact that only 7% of the population are from those schools. So it's about just that natural fairness. That's sort of like hardwired in.
I did, yeah.
I went to a very bog standard state school.
So 66% didn't on this.
And if this was every day, I think it wouldn't be
I've written about the fact that I did go to a private school, and I think you can't judge parents for taking decisions that they think are in the best interest of their children.
You can judge Diane Abbott for doing that, surely.
Well, Diane Abbott's slightly different because she's a politician who's taken a very strong view on it. But that's why I think it's the job of government actually to kind of sort the system out, and why I think things like charging VAT on private, I don't think the system as it works is fair. I think where I sort of disagree with James slightly is on how popular this is likely to be. Because I actually think a lot of parents see private school as quite an aspirational thing. Intuitively, a lot of people feel like it's totally fair. If you want to take your child out of the system and pay for them to go to a different school, why shouldn't you be able to do that? So I do think Labour have got some way to go on communicating why this policy is a good idea and why private schools, and I say this as someone who went to one, are unfair.
Final word.
Yeah, as I said, I think some of the polling actually does show up that it is actually a large amount of people, but you get to the crux of why people are sort of upset in society, and in life in general in our country, is they feel they're shut out and there's no access to get to the very higher echelons. This policy, like lots of policies seen in this Labour conference, how do you readdress that? How do you rewrite the rules of our economy and our society? And that's what you're hearing today. And look, even we're agreeing with most of this conversation, and I think that's what's going to happen throughout the rest of this week. You're going to see more and more consensus built around policy areas.
So with the exception that proves the rule.
With the exception of that.
I've always said that.
With the exception of Brexit, that's the big one.
Good to talk to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks.